Hi there everyone, welcome back. I was asked in the comments of a previous video if I would mind making a video on an August bouquet. So, as I've only got a couple of days of August left, I thought I'd better get on with it. So it's got a distinctly autumnal feel in the air today as we head into September next week, and the jewel bed is looking absolutely gorgeous behind me there. But what I'm going to do today is veer clear from the temptation of using all these jewel and deep and autumnal tones, because I desperately want to cling on to the fact that it is still summer. So instead of being tempted to go down that avenue, I've decided I will deal with the late summer flowers in another video in a couple of weeks' time, where I'll probably make a vase full of dahlias and the darker sort of rusty tones of the season. And today, instead, I have picked what I class as August in a bucket. Now I'm going to take you around and show you which flowers I've selected, why I've picked them at the stage I've picked them, how I'm going to condition them, and then finally I'm going to make you an August bouquet.
This is gorgeous. I absolutely love the colour of this dahlia. Quite a lot of people it gets a bit of bad press actually for not lasting so well. This is a cactus dahlia called Preference, which I absolutely love. So I'm definitely going to pick some Preference. Now there's a certain way to pick dahlias and a certain right stage to pick them. Dahlias don't open if you pick them in bud like that. So when we're talking about pollination, and sometimes it's best practice to pick things in bud, it's not with dahlias. You actually want to pick them when they're out, or more or less out, like this guy here. Here's another variety of dahlia which is out in the field at the minute. This is Wine-Eyed Jill, another one of my favourites. Now when it comes to stages of picking dahlias, I've said that they don't open when they're in bud, but this is actually a ball dahlia here. It's really easy with the ball or pom-pom varieties to tell when it starts to show in the centre there, it's gone too far. Another way to tell is that its petals there have started to completely reflex back onto the stem. It's nearly touching the stem there, so that tells me it's been out for a good long while. That is another Wine-Eyed Jill there, and it's still tight in the centre. And if you look at how it sits on my hand there, it's not gone past halfway, so those petals there aren't fully reflexed onto the stem. So that one there is a better option for picking. One little tip that I would give you when it comes to picking dahlias is don't be tempted to try and save the two buds coming out of here. Where you want to be picking is right down here, because then these two buds, which are a lot younger, will produce a lot longer and stronger stems than these here. So be quite severe when picking your dahlias. You pick a lot lower than what you might think. And we've got some Cosmos apricotta there, a second flush of all our self-sown calendula coming through, which just looks gorgeous with that Cosmos there. And then we've got Valentine sunflowers popping up through this bed here. I'm not a massive fan on sunflowers, I should admit, but I don't mind Valentine because it's quite small, which is nice, and it's a nice soft lemony colour. One thing sunflowers are really good at showing is how far pollinated they are. You can see that all of that area has been pollinated, and this has actually started to turn to seed. And you can see that tight bit in the middle there is all that's left that hasn't been pollinated. So you can see that's well on its way to turn into seed. So that means that the petals on this sunflower are going to drop fairly quickly. In comparison to this sunflower here, where you can see the middle there, still really tight. So that one probably only opened yesterday. So this one is the better option for picking. Or with sunflowers you can even pick them at that stage there. So as long as you can see coloured petals there starting to open, that'll open in a vase. So this here is definitely a flower of August, September, and this is an annual aster. Flower heads are lovely and big, so it does actually make a really good focal flower. And once I've cut this flower here, it'll start to entice these side stems here to produce longer growth. So you generally get about 5 stems off each plant. It's a really pretty flower. The Cosmos is looking absolutely gorgeous at the minute, and we've got plenty of it. So we've got Candy Stripe up there doing its thing, and we've got loads of this rubens. What I've got quite handily is some different stages here of Cosmos rubens. It's different flowering stages. So we've got it in tight bud that's opening, which is good for picking actually. Flowering stage there where it's only been open for maybe a day. It's only got one ring of pollination there, you can see, and fully pollinated and completely over. You can see there how the centre of the flower has started to rise up, and you can just see the start of seed formation there at the bottom. So that flower won't have much left in it, and certainly the better option is this one or this one. And here we've got Apricotta Cosmos, which just has the most beautiful colour. And this one here is perfect for picking. We've got lots and lots of zinnia. So this here is Cinderella Peach. So it tends to be a little bit shorter. And Cinderella Lilliput. So you can see there how small these flowers are by comparison to the giant zinnias that I'll show. No matter what zinnias you've grown, there's a technique to knowing if they're ready for picking, and that's the stem shake. You need your fingers away from the top of the flower stem, and then you shake the flower. Now if the flower moved with your fingers, that means it's ready for picking, because the top of the stem will be hard. If the flower's just opened, it won't move with your fingers, and it like this. That one is not ready for picking because you can see how it's waggling. So remember, only pick your zinnias when they don't waggle. In this area here, we've got a mixture of white scabious planted with white helichrysum straw flower, and they're just sort of all mingled in together, which is really, really nice. Here I'm going to show you a closer look of the straw flower. Now when it's very, very early in the morning, straw flower will be closed because it opens throughout the day. So if you see buds like that, particularly if it's a damp morning, expect them to look like that. But they will open when you pick them. Now with most flowers, and scabious is no different, it's a case of looking at the middle. How long has that flower been out? How much has it been pollinated? How close is it to setting seed? So this scabious here is still got flowers in the centre there which haven't opened. So I'd be tempted to pick that one. I'd certainly be picking the previous flower over this one here, where you can see it's fully out in the centre. All the flowers and foliage that I picked, I removed all the foliage and any flower buds and stems that were more than halfway down the stem, and then from the picking bucket I placed them into a fresh bucket of cool water and left them in a cool dark space for the rest of the day. And so they've been conditioning for about 8 hours now, and now I'm ready to make a bouquet to take home for the weekend. So I'll run you through all the stems that I picked. First off, I've got my focal flowers, and I have got Roald Dahl roses and Sweet Juliet roses. I've got Kiwi Gloria and Preference, which are both cactus varieties of dahlias. I've got Annual Aster, Chinensis, White and Apple Blossom. Then I've got some little Cinderella Peach zinnias. I've got some White Protomac Snapdragons, some Lavender Annual Scabious, one of my new favourites this year, Leopoldii Annual Phlox. I've got some Bunnytails grasses, some Salmon Helichrysum Strawflower, and then in terms of foliage, I'm going to be using Scented Geranium Leaf and Artemisia. So let's get making. And I'm going to start off with this branchy stem of Cosmos Purity. This is brilliant for starting to build a bouquet because it's got a lovely cup shape to it, which is going to help when we feed our stems through it. It's kind of like my cheats method to building a bouquet easily. I'm right-handed, so I'm arranging it in my left hand because my right hand is my dominant hand, so I want to be using that to feed the flowers through. And my left hand is going to act as a little vase top. So I always make a little hoop with my left hand and keep in my left hand really nice and slack. So if you see, I've got 3 fingers held out there,
and then them 3 fingers will come into play as I start feeding stems through. Because I want a nice open bouquet, with my placement of the stems, I don't place like that, which is straight down, because I want it really nice and wide and open as a bouquet. If you look at the stems there, they're placed across each other, and I continue to place across until I get to the very outer edge. So what I'm initially doing here is building up a base with the stronger stems of flowers, so that I've got something good and strong to feed the more wispy stems of flowers into. Don't worry too much initially if the stems start falling through your hand. As you build the bouquet up, they're going to be a lot less likely to start doing that. So what I'm doing there is lifting and turning the bouquet. So I use my right hand to pick up the stems, lift and turn, and then just give it a little shake to loosen it back off. Every so often just shaking my hand so that I know nothing's becoming too tight. Now I've started to build up a base for this bouquet, I'm going to start to be able to add in some of the more delicate stems like the scabious. And the lilac-y blue scabious is just going to lift the other colours in the bouquet. So if you notice that I'm still constantly feeding at an angle as well. See how that zinnia is picking up on the colour of that Roald Dahl dahlia there, so you've got colours jumping through the bouquet. You'll just have to trust me, that smells incredible. Just move your hand down slightly as your bouquet builds. See, your bouquet becomes looser, which is what you want as you build it up, so that you're able to poke stems into your arrangement. And now I've reached the stage where I'm going to start adding in some scented geranium leaf around the outside. And some little pieces of that Phlox Leopoldii. There would have been no point in putting this phlox in the centre of the bouquet because it would have just got dominated by the big boy flowers in there. So I'd rather give it its own space to sing out the side of the bouquet. A couple of bits of really delicate bunny tails there, which I just nestle between the other stems on the edge there, and then I'll feed some through the top as well. Right, the last few finishing touches, because I couldn't resist some of that honeysuckle. There we go, I think I'm done. Time to tie it off now. I tend to tie off my bouquets quite loosely to give me potential and scope to move the stems up and down once it's tied off. So I'll just have a final little fiddle about with it now. And then snip in all my stems so that they're a similar length. That is my garden inspired August bouquet, packed full of scent, interest and colour. So there you go, that's my August garden inspired bouquet of flowers packed full of colour, scent and interest. I hope you enjoyed the video and it's inspired you to go out and pick some flowers in your garden and get arranging. If you did enjoy the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.